fully breakfast burritoed up. We're here for another episode of the Dope Stroke podcast. You'd think with such a hearty breakfast to get me going, Bubsy, that we'd have the full crew. But we find out 2 seconds before getting on the air here that Dazzler's binned us off. He's mugged us off. What's that all about?
Mate, it's been chaos. So we normally start at 3. We get a message saying, can it be 3:30 because Dazzler's delayed? So I'm like, fair enough. I'll just, change my plans, put it back half hour. We jump on. Trotty's there eating a breakfast burrito, pouring coffee. Dazzler now can't even make it. I mean, what are we running here? This is meant to be a professional outfit that we're meant to be putting out, and it's only me and you. But we're gonna hold the fort, aren't we? We've got something coming up a little bit later that Daryl pre-recorded. But yeah, just me and you, mate.
Do you know, I've seen some of the reels that we've been banging out. They've been doing better. They've been going well. This week, I decided to take the effort because I figured we're going to keep doing this. Those of you watching on YouTube, to actually put a iPhone up and get the camera sorted out. You like that? I got my sidekick
hang on.
as well, those that are watching.
That was little dog popped his head up. It's like a magic trick, that was.
He's my guy. So, mate, there's been a lot going on. They took a tournament down to Australia. That golf course is insane, isn't it?
Oh, I know, but did you see Rory's comments about the course, which didn't go down too well?
Didn't see it.
So I didn't catch the context of it, but he's basically in a presser. They call it a presser, and obviously down there they rate that course, right? They really rate it, and it's meant to be amazing. Yeah. But I think there's a few people who have potentially suggested that it could be the best course in the world, which is big bold claim. So he's doing this presser, and someone says to me in something along the lines of, what are your thoughts on Royal Melbourne being the best course in the world? And he goes, if you want my honest answer, it's not even the best golf course in Melbourne. So he thinks there's a better one. Kings something, do you know the one?
Kingston Heath.
That's it, Kingston Heath, yeah. So yeah, let alone the best course in the world, according to Rory, it's not even the best course in Melbourne, but it did look amazing. Have you been?
I've been, but I don't know if I've been to Kingston Heath. I know that, and obviously I've worked all the ranges down there. But I'm not sure if I've been to Royal Melbourne, but I could have. And I know that sounds daft, but obviously the tour job, when you do it, it's just range to stop. Australia was always funny because we'd see a lot of players we didn't see every week. Of course, you don't have a tour truck down in Australia, so you'd be working out of 2 flight covers that would have, at the start of the week, maybe 70 to 90 golf clubs, 70 drivers, and then the remainder, just a few fairway woods. And I remember up that east coast of Australia, for sure, we just were tight on driver counts, and we had some quite nice hotel rooms. And I remember that we just turned my hotel room into a workshop, which seems good. But when you're trying to sleep among all the glue and the fumes and stuff, it's not good. And you're just like mixing the stuff, getting this weird little like make-do swing weight machine. We bought a calibration club from the UK. It was amazing times. And then I remember a shout out to a guy called Mark James. We called him Jesse James, not the Jesse James, the player. This guy was a rep. And I remember like he partied pretty hard, and I would try and keep up with him a bit, and really good at his job. And we went out one time, and I got sick and then probably hung over the day of working. And he just turned up at the hotel room and he's like, you ain't doing this today. And I was like, dude, this is a tough battle like to win. He's like, I got it. And off he went. It was impressive, really good. And then we would go on from there to New Zealand, and that was another challenge again. It was, but it was good times, good tournament, good players, really good players. Like, you underestimate how many good players there are in Australia, young ones and like the older boys. And you see a lot of them get on the Champions Tour now. Which brings me to, which I doubt you would even have watched, that Champions Tour event actually had my interest this week. I watched like all 15 minutes of that with Europe, rest of the world, and the American boys.
I do not even know what that tournament is. I mean, we'll come on to that in a minute, but there was obviously quite a few tournaments. There was like 3 big tournaments, 2 on the DP, and obviously the Hero with Tiger. And then obviously you can fill me in on that one. But what it made me realise, and I didn't watch a lot of golf, to be fair. I watch it now through kind of socials, Instagram, TikTok. But man, the crowds in Australia, they deserve something big, don't they? Really? I mean, look, it's not going to happen because it's just too big of a change. But you look at the ladies' game; they've got 5 majors. Like, could the men's go down there and have a 5th major? Because like they deserve a tournament, don't they? The amount of golfers they've produced over the years, the amount of golfers they will produce, and there's nothing really goes there apart from like the DP. Now, it just felt to me watching the event on social like they deserve something a bit bigger and a bit better.
Yeah, I mean, President's Cup has obviously been down there in recent years. Personally, on the fifth major, I'm a hard no. Like, that's a hard no.
Oh yeah, I know it's not going to happen, but
But no, I know. But even if someone put it out there, your majors are your majors. Like, stop fanning around with that. I know Liv tried to do a little bit in Australia. So, say you do Australia, South Africa are going to say we need a tournament. Say you do it in South Africa, India are going to say. So, I think it'll slowly build and it'll slowly come. I mean, obviously, bringing Rory down there is a big kudos for the tourist board. And they have the Aussie PGA Tour there. It's just, you get to Dubai, you get to Hong Kong, you get to Singapore, and it's like, turn left another freaking 15 hours. It's just not
yeah.
near anywhere. But I agree. And obviously, they're a huge sporting nation. I mean, MCG, the Melbourne Cricket Ground's in that town. They play Aussie rules in that town. So, yeah, I think, does it deserve a bigger tournament? Yes. Will it get one? Who knows? There's so much money and so much drive in that. And I saw that there was some comments coming out of the European Tour, because I'm a bit like I'm a loose watcher of the golf. But unless it's like go time season, but you watch, and I see that one of the guys was moaning, saying that you put on 2 big tournaments during the same week. Like, what's that all about? And I get it. And obviously, this Aussie Open being a European Tour event, at the end of the day, that's progression. I know that's been that before, but it continues to be. So, yeah, European Tour, you'd think they'd figure out their schedule and honour all this, but it comes back to the same old, same old. It's about the cash. No one cares. The executives running these offices just want the tournaments, put on the bill, and off we go.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was who made that comment, but I did see that as well. But I was kind of thinking, look, it's December. It's not the main season. And effectively, you've got 2 big events you could play in. So, you could look at it one or two ways. You can look at it as, it's not ideal that you've got these 2 big tournaments on at the same time. But the flip side of that is look at it as, look, it's December. It's kind of the off season. I've got opportunities to play in 2 big events, really, whether I want to play, the one in Nedbank or whether I want to play the one in Australia. So I sort of see the point, but I'm not sure you should be publicly saying that. I think you should be more appreciative that there's 2 events that you could play and they're pretty big, good prize money, good fields, good coverage. So I'm kind of more down that route, to be honest. Well, what was the Champions Tour?
Down on the European Tour being the feeder tour, doesn't it? Because now you've got 2 events where the field and the categories. So the way the tour works is you get, your category 1, which is like your legends, and then it moves down like winners category, invites, blah, 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 and then the main field. So what will happen is as the field splits, you get half of the tour going to Australia, half of the tour going to South Africa. So now it's more opportunity for the lower end players, but it does add up to being a feed. That's a real feeder play. And then if I look down at Oz, there was a few of there was that Javi Blister or whatever he's called, that good player, the kid.
Oh, the Liv guy.
He had a pee in the lake, didn't he? In the creek.
He'll always be known as that now.
Yeah, I met him. He's actually a nice guy. But he's playing. So I'm like, was this a Liv event? And Ortiz was playing. It's like, what was the deal there?
I don't know. So someone, I can't remember who it was now, put something out about that. Jose Ballester, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
And I think they put something like, they're obviously there at the event, and they've just put, followed him for a couple of rounds of golf, and they said something like, I can see kind of why he's been talked about the way he's been talked about. So I think he's trending in the right direction and playing well. So I've not really watched him play that much, but obviously he's already got a Masters under his belt. He's obviously on Liv now, so he's someone who could push on, I guess.
But what happens there? Because it's like, you see, you're the same as me, you've probably seen the same post, but Brooks Koepka might not be playing Liv next year. So it's like,
I know.
If you're a young kid coming out, they kind of needed that guy not to go and play Liv, I guess, because he's a good name, he's a good player.
I don't know whether I'd fancy Brooks' chances now on the PGA Tour. Feels like he's not been playing that well. He's not done any good in really the majors. Like, I don't know, there's no guarantees that he's going to come back to the PGA Tour and start making cuts and winning tournaments and get back in that top 10, top 15. He feels like he's lost his game, but he's not the player he was a few years back when he was looking at majors for fun.
But you look at it though, kids, misses, life. It's hard to get on the road when you've got commitments at home, which I'm going to go there again because you kind of brushed it off the first time. It then brings you up to the Champions Tour. And I know you don't want to talk about it because you already brushed me on it already. But
I want to know what it was. It sounds like it was a...
We're getting older, though, and you see guys like Darren Clarke leading teams and stuff like that. And I don't know, I always used to wonder why, like, people would watch Seniors Tour or Champions Tour golf. And I'm like, I don't see the point. And then all of a sudden there I am, and it was the only golf I watched. A bit of Melbourne, but it's swamped with adverts. And then I end up putting on a bit of Champions Tour.
What was it then?
It was a team event they play. They split it up into Europe, rest of the world, United States. Off you go. You play this game and you win points. But I mean, just looking at it, thinking, wow, like Checker had his 55th birthday this week at that tournament. And then I saw that on socials, and Parnovic was there. And it's just older guys who can still seriously golf their ball, playing like 65 to 6,800 yard golf courses. And you just have a respect for it. Like, these guys have got kids who either in college, through college, they've got grandkids, and they're still out there beating the road. I mean, Langer was playing. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it just shows, doesn't it, that you can't get to any level in this game, at whatever age you are, without just a proper deep love of playing golf. These guys aren't winning tournaments because it's a job. They just love doing it. So even when they get to the point where they don't need to do it anymore, they do it because they just love playing golf. They just love that kind of inner battle of, can I go and win this tournament? Can I go and beat my mate? Can I go and do this? It's just, that's why you still play, isn't it? There's that deep-rooted love of getting your ball out and going to see what you can shoot on a golf course.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's important. And I think anyone who does anything in this game, and you're the same way, anyone who does anything in this game, you can't do it without that level of commitment and that level of passion. It's the same as anything you choose to do. It just so happens that we chose the golf industry.
Yeah, but I guess, if you look at what you're doing now and what I'm doing, we've kind of transitioned into the kind of social side of things. But again, it still goes back to the idea that you're doing what you're doing and you're making a success of it because you enjoy doing it at the end of the day. You're not waking up every day and going, I'm going to do this because I need to pay the bills and because I want the money and because I want the perks. You're doing it because you love what you do. You want to help people with the golf clubs. And it's the same with me. I wake up and I do what I do because I just love helping people play better golf. And I guess, those guys are obviously playing golf because they love it. We're doing what we do because we love it. And I guess, without getting too deep here, it's the holy grail, isn't it? If you can do what you love every day and get paid for it, then you're going to be pretty sorted for the rest of your life.
I think on that subject, it's funny because I guess we're going there, but like, obviously I used to play a lot of tournament golf when we were living in the same part of the world. And I realized through going on this journey on the tour, I stopped playing golf, period. And then I realized, obviously, I was a long way away from playing tournament golf. So when I went down the social media route, it was like, I might want to get back to hitting the ball. And then obviously you realize your game isn't where it used to be. And then you progress and join a golf club. And, I'm sat at crossroads now going, okay, what's the next step? Like, I realize YouTube golf isn't really the same. I don't know if I want to go deeper into that. I love the content, but I don't know if I want to go deeper into it. But you stand there and you're like, okay, do I want to play US mid-am? Do I want to play SoCal mid-ams? And I don't know, I'm toying with it, but it's just the travel and the commitment. And you have to put in like a month prep. Then you go practice around it. Then you go stay somewhere. Then it's like, I'd almost rather watch the kids play sport. So it's interesting how it never leaves you, but it's hard to find where you want to be playing as well.
So I think, I mean, obviously we live in different parts of the world now, and obviously I'm in the UK still, and I'm like, my job doesn't stop all year round, but it's seasonal. So, from sort of May through till September, it's just busier. There's just a lot more going on. I find my time is demanded a lot more. And then obviously got family, got kids. So I struggle to play socially. And when I struggle to play socially, I then don't practice because I'm not playing. I don't play competitively. Then it comes to this time of year and it goes a little bit quieter. So I've got more time. And then it's like crap weather for 4 or 5 months. And it's just difficult. So I'm almost kind of itching to get back into it. And I feel like as my boys get a bit older, and I feel like, even chatting to you and, hearing what you're doing, I'd love to get back into that, joining a club. And I guess when you live in California, you can play all year round. Whereas in the UK, we don't stop for 4 or 5 months, but it all quietens down. The courses get difficult to play. There's not many competitions, so it's just tougher at the moment for me playing wise.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, my game is in a good place, and it's there because of, and I think that's important for our jobs. Like, you watch stuff online, you learn things about the golf swing, you learn things about data, you learn things about equipment. I think it's important you can be able to talk to it from a level that is coming from the tour player, but also your own experience. It's useful.
Yeah.
So on that, and the UK and the situation, I believe we've got a guest coming up. Like, Daryl's actually got off his arse and interviewed someone.
I mean, he's not told us. We just found out.
He just told us he's bailed, and then told us he's on this interview. And it's Golf Monthly, so that's talking about things that pull on the heartstrings. And you look at Champions Tour, and then you look at like UK. That is a UK Golf Monthly is a pretty freaking awesome, like pioneering piece, right? You must have been flicking through that as a kid. I think we even had a subscription in our house at one point.
Oh yeah, there was a few, wasn't there? I remember, and still now you see him, doctor surgeries, dentist surgeries. You see him on the table, but I'm pretty sure Golf Monthly have moved predominantly online, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, and obviously we've got something coming up, but yeah, Daz has kind of basically cheated on us, gone behind our back, not told us what he's doing, and then just dropped it on us that he's already done an interview and that's going to be the podcast. So, talking to socials, I don't know where this. Well, you can tell me. Would have been Stealth. I can't remember if it was Stealth 1 or Stealth 2, but it popped up on TikTok, and it was you fitting DOD King at the Kingdom. Good little watch that was, because it was, he was obviously he was trying to hit it off the deck, and you're trying to get him to put a mini driver in play. Good little video that was.
So that was funny because he comes to the Kingdom, and I was fairly new on the social media, and they're like, oh, bear in mind, I've just been fitting some of the best players in the world like the month before. And they're like, oh, we've got this kid coming in. I was like, yeah, need you to do some stuff with him on like YouTube. Like, all right. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I was like, okay. Who is it? What is it? Oh, DOD kid. I was like, oh, that knob. And they're like, yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ. I said, is this what it's come to? Like, you're giving me him? And they're like, yeah. So I was like, oh, shit. So we walk out there, and I meet this guy, and I'm like, okay, I quite like this guy. Like, he reminds me a bit of me. And I'm like, okay, he's all right. Let's see what happens. And he starts hitting it, and he can hit it. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I literally start chiseling him about tees. And I'm like, well, really explaining to him like the ball launch conditions. And he's sort of glazing over a bit. And I'm trying to like, don't really know the arts of making a YouTube video. So I'm just like going with whatever the hell I want to say. And he's like, and he keeps like feeding me down this avenue to get off the tees. And I'm like, yeah, but you launch and CG and and the ball and the way it's designed. And he looks at his cameraman, who's also a nice guy. And he's like, stop. So they stop. And I look at them and I'm like, the fuck, what's up? And he goes, I don't use tees. And I was like, yeah. He's like, the whole thing is I don't use tees. And I went, well, that's a bit fucking stupid, isn't it? And he goes, but I don't use tees. I said, I don't really care what you do and don't do. I said, do you want to hit it better? And he said, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm doing this whole social media thing. DOD, driver off the deck. DOD, driver off deck, king. That's me. I don't use tees. I said, well, this is stupid then, isn't it? And he's like, yeah. And I went, I basically said to him, you're a dick. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, dude. So then he starts like, he hits me one with a tee that goes a little further. And he says, can you just go along with this for the video? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Of course I can. Now I get it. Like, you could have told me that at the start. He said, I thought you knew. I was like, I don't know shit about you not using tees. It's just funny. So we've obviously seen each other since. He's a really good lad. And he's quite a good player. And I think, he wears his heart on his sleeve, but good bloke. Really good bloke.
Just out of interest, what do you have to do with that in terms of fitting? Do you have to give him more loft, or do you have to try and pull the CG down? Or because obviously, like, look at the drivers now; they're so deep, aren't they, from top to bottom? I mean, I remember, like, back in the day watching the Emirates, the Dubai Desert Classic, and Monty hitting a driver off the deck into that 18th. Like, you just don't get it these days, do you? So you can't even hit the CG, can you?
No. So it's funny because you alluded to it a little bit. So if you look at Monty, he had like a big Bertha, I think it was, that he did that with. And then mini driver is what we fit DOD into. Basically, it's a lower center of gravity and it's a little bit further forward. So what happens is you have the CG of the ball and the CG of the driver. And when you pull, so the CG of the driver is back and you put the ball on a T-peg, if that's my arm, and then you hit up and you offset the two. So the center of gravity of the ball is higher than the center of gravity of the driver. I'm trying to just realize we're doing this as a goddamn podcast, so I should try and explain this rather than have my hands out. And then obviously with the DOD, you want to try and either get the CGs of the two things level, or if you're hitting down on it, you can actually squeeze it and get it out. Now, the new TaylorMade driver, which we still can't say the name of, has a slightly different roll and bulge in the face. So I've actually, to combat, when you and I last played, I was a bit all over the map. To combat that driver, I'm hitting a lot of drivers off the deck now because it stops you from backing up and helping the ball into the air. Again, people are just going to have to watch this on YouTube. I'm giving it the motion of backing up and like getting under it. So when you do that, the face becomes very flippy. So you can hit it right and you can hit it left. But if you put a driver off the floor and you start to turn onto it more, then your angle of attack will go a little bit steeper, which isn't optimal for distance. But if you are hitting it all over the map and you have a little bit of talent, you can then hit the ball, launch it at like 9, 10 if you're lucky, and spin it at 29, 3,000. So again, keeping it on just while we've got DOD and we've got Golf Monthly and we've got Joe Ferguson coming on with Daryl. I actually watched the first YouTube video I've watched on golf in a long time. I actually watched Robert Rock hitting balls with Joe. And it was at Little Aston, which is an old hunting ground that we used to be at, which is a great little heathland golf course. And Rocky got to driver, and he was talking how he never used to use a tee because he said he couldn't be bothered re-teeing it, and he just hit the drivers off the same piece of grass because he had an alignment stick and a shaft plane rod. But it makes sense because I fit Rob once in Dubai. Bear in mind, Dubai, you want to keep your ball down and get it hunting and running. And he was 8 down on driver. I never seen him on that down. And he was obviously like, had to change it. But if you watch that video with Joe, he talked about he would get a little dumpy, which means players get the club behind them a bit.
Yeah.
I think in social media, there's so much spoken about being shallow. Shallowing the golf club and getting it behind you, as you know, is one thing. But if you get it behind you and then you back up to try and hit under the ball, you can get dumpy and hit the ball a long way right, or you can flip and hit it left. DOD was doing it. Tiger Woods had a spell of doing that. Obviously, Rocky spoke about it. If you go back to the Hoylake Open he played when he did well, I can't remember the year. It might be 05, 06. His golf swing there was very dumpy behind, and his finish was high hands. If you look at Monty, he gets high hands, but he's obviously a cutter. I get high hands. And I think anyone who's trying to shallow it the incorrect way, you can get behind it and up underneath it. And I think for Rob, he'd gone so much off the deck that he was, at the time he saw me, he was playing on tour, and he was down 8. And you're like, wow, but that limit, you can do it and you can hit drivers off the deck, but to full circle and answer your question, you move away from the optimum ball flight. So you hit a lot more fairways, you do, because your dispersion cone getting onto the decade stuff isn't as wide. And that's why I did it, because I had this thing off the freaking map. I mean, I played with you tonight. It was off the map. And now you can hit it a lot straighter. But, you know, even if you miss-hit one, it still goes 250 if you've got a freaking 160 ball speed, which most of us still do. You obviously don't.
So I think what I've hit driver.
Did you see Ollie Wilson do it when he won in France?
Yes, I did.
I mean, that was unbelievable. But that was to hit, and you can explain that as at Paris, wherever it was, stadium. But that was to hit a certain shot off that tee and not bring in the big miss.
Well, I think what you find is if you look at the range of handicaps from high handicap to kind of, I guess, tour level, there's a point, and I don't know where that point is, and it's going to be different for everybody, but there's a point at where the golfer's got enough talent that they can react to certain things. So, for example, if, let's say I am 4 or 5 degrees into out my path, 4 or 5 degrees up in my attack angle, which is pretty normal for me. If you stick driver on the deck and ask me to hit balls on the deck, because of that ball being not close to the ground, not on a tee, it changes my delivery. Maybe not on the next swing, but if you ask me to hit 10 shots, by the end of those 10 shots, I'm going to be a lot closer to 0 in terms of my attack angle and a lot closer to 0 in terms of my path. So I'm kind of reacting to the kind of the ball. So to your point there, anyone who gets it stuck underneath, flat inside, flippy with the hands, you can actually, I call it like a task change rather than a technical change, because you're not really technically telling the golfer what to do. You're just saying, hey, here's the ball on the ground, hit it. And if you start to get, like I would, 4 in from the right, sorry, 4 in, 2 out, 4 up, I can't strike it. So it helps me change my golf swing, but it's non-technical. Going back to the original point, if you do that to a high handicapper, they haven't got the kind of skill or the talent to adjust. So they end up just making a terrible attempt at it and just top it. So I think there's a point where a talented golfer can use ball position to change the golf swing. So Ollie Wilson there would have been going, obviously, ball on the ground. It's probably going to get him steeper. It's probably going to move his path left. He's probably not going to hit it left. So again, going to sort of decade stuff, he's probably knowing a little bit more what his shot dispersion is. He knows he's going to miss it straight to slightly right. Just helps him get it in play. But I do think there's a lot to be said for creating an environment when you're practicing in a smart way, knowing that this environment is likely to influence my golf swing in this way. And it's a really good thing to do mid-season because it's non-technical. And I would say I do it like, in order to the point, if you ask me to hit driver of the deck now, that would pretty much within 10 swings, I would be able to tell you how I'm swinging it. Because if I can't hit driver of the deck, I know I'm not swinging it good. If I can hit driver of the deck, I know I am swinging it good.
So. Mate, it's helped me no end. I mean, I hit a lot of 3-woods the other day, but I had 63% of fairways. I haven't hit 63% of fairways in the last 20 years. So
you can play from there. You can score from there.
Exactly. So back onto Golf Monthly, back onto today's interview. It's Joe Ferguson with McD. So he's finally doing a bit of work. I've got a bit story for you how I got reconnected personally with these boys. So his co-worker, Dan Parker, they do this Kick Point podcast. We're out at Adidas headquarters. Some of us come from the States. Some of the lads come from Europe. I think they might have come with Doherty. I don't know if they'd come on their own, sort of whatever. They were there, though. And went to a Bayern Munich game. And obviously, you can take beers to the seat there. And, you know, fairly big beers, typical Germany. And we're sat at the seat, and I get this an English lad there. And I'd been mixing a lot with the American crowd. So I was like, we're at a football game. I'll see if it's sitting near the English boys, see what happens here. So get chatting, obviously you get talking away to them, and it was Dan's colleague, I think. And then I realised that Dan was a good lad, the colleague was a good lad, Joe wasn't there, and we just started having a bit of banter and a bit of a laugh. And good lads, they like golf. Obviously it was an old classic magazine. So I met those boys out in Germany at an Adidas event and realised that they were good lads. And obviously then was fortunate enough to go on the Kick Point podcast at one point when they came to TaylorMade, which was good. Obviously, you know me, Bubs, I set the tone a little different to everyone else and tried to make this thing fun because I think golf can get just too serious. Shared a couple of beers with them at the Kingdom, so we picked up from where we were in Munich. And that was that. But, I mean, I've not, like we say, we've no idea what Daryl's going to talk about, so it's not like we can tell the viewers what's coming. Just that he's not as useless as we perhaps thought he was.
But just on that point, mate, you mentioned you went to watch a Bayern Munich game. So sticking to football, mate, Salah, what is going on there? Yeah. Oh, that is just not... I don't know who I'm with there. I think I'm with Slot, to be honest.
I didn't expect that question. It's a different one. I'm not, out of respect for Mo and Liverpool, I'm not going to answer that because I still haven't really decided which way I am.
Which camp you're in.
I'll do my best. I think that Slot as a manager can I think I heard on the news this morning he's dropped in for the Champions League game. And I think that kind of tells you which way this is going to go. I think Mo will leave. But I think, you know, as a Mo fan, the one thing I did say is you can't be like that as a higher level player in the team. Like it's not a captain's move. Like, would Henderson have done it? Would Gerrard have done that? Even Keane had his whole mix-up with that MUTV thing back in the day. He didn't say a word, did he? He just went to Celtic and that was it. And I think that it'll end up a bit like Mo and it'll be a bit like Keane. Like, Keane is obviously idolised at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Mo will be idolised at Anfield. I really like Mo and what he's done for the club is amazing. I don't think he should have done that in the public. I don't think he needed to, but I think he wanted to. And it's like, that'll probably obviously open the doors in Saudi for the money. And there's rumours here in the MLS that there's rumours about San Diego, which would be amazing for the MLS. And obviously, I don't know if you saw, but Beckham's team won the MLS.
Yeah, I saw that.
So look, I mean, but mate, brutal.
Yeah. All right, then. Well, let's throw it over to Dazzler and Joe Ferguson.
Actually, we want people's poll first on Mo Salah and Arne Slot. Which camp are you falling in? That's what we want. Never mind Joe Ferguson and Dazzler. We got real problems around here.
I think they're both wrong. So I think they're both wrong. So I don't know if there's a middle camp you can be in.
So look, we don't know if Daryl he's going to tell anyone, but it's Kick Point Podcast, which is, I think, an extension of the Golf Monthly podcast. They do a nice job. They're going to talk a lot about business, where Golf Monthly's at in the current day. We'll stick all the things down in the description, because it seems like we're promoting Golf Monthly's podcast now, so I guess we are. We're in the boat with Golf Monthly. Get on it, Joe Ferguson. Let's be having it. See you later.
Okay, so we got Joe today, Joe Ferguson, golf writer for Golf Monthly. Great to have you on the show today. Super grateful. Obviously, we go back a little ways here. I've got a big Welsh family. You actually are Welsh. So should we just get the jokes out of the way?
So you keep saying I'm Welsh. You're slightly off the mark now. I think I'm an honorary Welsh. Technically, I'm English, but I worked at Celtic Manor for
that's Welsh.
Best part of a decade. Yeah, but you've been to American. You're not American. I'm English. Yeah, but I think I became an honorary Welshman, having been at Celtic Manor for about 10 years. Not officially, just honorary.
Welsh accent, is that where that comes in?
Yeah, the mongrel accent. Yeah, everyone from Wales thought I was a Brummie, and everyone from Birmingham thinks I'm Welsh.
Yeah, standard practice, right? So at least you didn't get amongst the small village syndrome, which is sometimes synonymous with Wales, because my family is definitely that massive family on the west side of Wales, and they're the kind of people that when you drive through the town, they look inside the car to see who else is in the car.
I still do that.
You still? Oh, well, that's okay.
Just a hobby.
You're Welsh, aren't you?
Yes, it's just a hobby of mine. Yeah. No, I remember. Right. I think I first set eyes on you. Yeah, on the tour track at a Welsh Open, I was playing. And then subsequently, I remember seeing you again at Woburn. We got invited. We had some sort of retail reward at Celtic Manor for whoever sold the most. We got to go and spend a couple of days on the tour van at the British Masters. And you were at that point fighting an uphill battle, trying to fit Tyrrell Hatton into an M1 that I think had been going on for about 3 months or something like that.
That was emotional, yeah. I'll be honest, I never won the battle. He stayed in a ping driver, I think it was, in the end. But it's a really unusual guy to fit, actually, because weirdly, no matter what you did to the driver, it always went right. So you could make this a very hookable product, and he would find a way just by natural talent to hit a cut. That's just how he would do it. He would just visually look at it and go, yeah, no, I'm not going to hit this left. It's going to go left to right. And it was a really difficult club to fit.
But, see that a lot of good players, don't you? Seeing that visual just cues something in them.
Yeah.
And then whether consciously or subconsciously, body does what they want it to do to make it not do what they don't want to see, right?
But I think it only really applies to the most natural of golfers, because there's a whole range of golfers out there that are, top golfers, top 50 in the world, top 10 in the world, but they might not necessarily be the most natural golfers. So I guess a good example would be Tyrrell Hatton, who doesn't really practice an awful lot, but he goes out and obviously shoots low scores. He's a player. He gets out on the course and he does that. Other guys, and I've heard, say, Ian Poulter say this a few times, where he talks about doing reps out on the range. So for him, he's got to grind out an actual technical approach to his game before he goes on the course.
So someone like that, you think you'd make your tweaks to the golf club, and because they're not one-dimensional, but more mechanical, less feel players, you're going to see downrange what you've changed on,
definitely
more so than on someone who's subconsciously shifting it.
I believe that, yeah. Just from when you see it. And obviously you've got guys that can be technical, but are also natural. Guys like Martin Keimer would probably fit into that. Rory McIlroy, definitely. So they practice hard. They do a lot, off the golf course to get better. And they have that blend then of what they see visually versus what they are adjusting to and tweaking technically, both in their golf swing and also in their golf equipment.
Do you think you talk about this stuff enough on here, Daryl? Because do people know enough about the players you've spent time with, the work you've done, the knowledge you've got? Do you get into that enough?
Well, we downplay it for me personally. Yeah. So obviously we're very fortunate on this Dope Stroke podcast. Trotty's a massive name when it comes into the golf equipment world. And
not a massive man.
He's not a massive man. Believe it or not, he's actually taller than me. Let's not say that too far. Yeah, he's like we're going to call it a quarter of an inch taller than me. And every quarter of an inch counts.
Correct.
Don't we know that, Joe? But you are maybe right a little bit. But Trotty for me is the lead expert on that regards to the show. Chris Ryan, from a golf swing perspective, definitely one of the high-profile names in the world in that space. Me, I'm not 100% certain why I'm even on the podcast. All I know is that I like business, I like talking about it, and I like getting into the details of it, which is one of the key reasons why you're here today, actually, Joe.
What a lovely segue that was.
That was good. It's like
not your first rodeo, this,
it's like
is
I
it?
planned it, right? Well, what I want to get into today with yourself, Joe, is to really talk about brands and how they work with the media and how that really fits into their marketing mix. I want to know, like, how does the media world, the golf media world, get driven by brands? How does the media make their money? What are their priorities? All of these type of things I'd like to get into. So to really kind of set the tone and get into the whole framing of this, when brands are thinking about their marketing mix, why should they even work with the media in the first place?
Well, it's simple, isn't it? They've got to get the message out there, and utilizing media outlets, you're getting your message out there in a perceived neutral way. Obviously, brands are going to shout about their product and tell you what it does, but if someone's telling you how great they are, it has less of an impact than if a third party, excuse me, if a third party is passing on that information. And I think it's all about sources, isn't it? So we pride ourselves at Golf Monthly on very much independent testing. So we've got experts in each category. So I look after drivers and irons in particular. We've got Sam Diath out there currently outside hitting some balls, who's
Great.
Fantastic player, ex-pro, +4 handicapper, looking on different things. So I think you're going to get onto it a little bit because you did pre-warn me about
I'd never do such a thing.
what kind of influence the brands have on you. But again, I can only speak for us at Golf Monthly. We're very careful about keeping our credibility to make sure our message is well received, because, I mean, I'm not naming any names. I can't even think of any off the top of my head, but there's brands or media outlets rather that maybe seem a little bit more affected or influenced by certain brands and align themselves with certain brands. And I've always felt that eats away at the credibility of the message you're trying to put out as a media outlet. But also, you've got to be realistic from a media point of view. We have commercial obligations to fill, but we try and keep those very, very separate. There's very clear editorial stuff that we put out that is purely our opinion, independent reviews, and things like that. But then we do CS projects, we have advertorials that people can pay for, but we're very careful to separate that content and make it very clear. And we have to, the guidelines insist that we have to show that this is a paid for, this is a partnered piece of content, this is our editorial opinion. So yeah, we're very careful about it. But yeah, from a brand point of view, for me, without a marketing degree or anything like that, it just feels like it's the impact of a third party talking about
another
your
voice.
Product, another voice. Yeah, because
an independent voice, ultimately.
Absolutely.
I suppose the challenge comes in from a brand's perspective is if they somebody opens up the magazine, and on the left-hand side is a very flash advert about this latest brand product, and on the right-hand side is a journalist or a writer basically criticizing that product. What I will say, though, and I think I'm being quite broad by saying this, is there's not really that many bad products out there. Like, there's some that are are well suited for certain needs, and others that are not. But nobody really makes a really, really bad product. And I'm singling out golf clubs here more than rangefinders or any other devices out in the market, which there are a few dodgy ones of those. But
there are, you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that in some ways it makes our job a little bit more difficult as testers, because it's not that stuff's getting samey. It's just that you're having to be very granular to pick out the points that maybe you don't like, maybe you would change. But yeah, moreover, you're trying to, at the back of my mind, in all of these reviews I'm doing, I might not like a product for me. So there's plenty of product that I'll try this launch season. We're getting into silly season now, that I will sit down and go, looks a bit cumbersome for me. Don't like the way this face sits, spins like mad, whatever in driver. But I've got to put my head on it. Well, not everyone's me. Not everyone's 120 mile an hour club at speed. A lot of people, and don't want to see that sort of tour preferred squat profile. So as a tester of equipment, you just got to put yourself in the mindset of who's going to receive that, and then you can create very balanced reviews in terms of, look, okay, it's not for me, but it wasn't intended for me. If you're someone who struggles with this persistent strike, if you struggle with launch, if you need more confidence, you've got to put it in the right place. And I think people, again, I'm getting away from brand here, but I'm talking just from my perspective, because you probably have to get a brand. We could go and drag some brand people in now, but from a media point of view, it's getting that balance right. And I think if you don't have that balance, if you don't criticize, if you don't nitpick, if you don't find some stuff that you don't like about the product, well, who's going to read your stuff anyway? Because if it's just lip service, if it's just another fantastic driver from so-and-so, absolutely top drawer, 5 stars, everything, wouldn't change a thing. Like that's impactful if that's in amongst, didn't like this one, that wasn't so good. That 5-star review where you do say all that stuff becomes very impactful, so long as you're honest about everything. And I think maybe it's old-fashioned, but honesty, it can be difficult because we work quite closely with a lot of brands. And, I could give you an example of several nice trips I've been on with various brands over the past 12 months where they fly you out to lovely places, put you up, feed you lovely food, and all of those things. And that's all part of the game. They want you to see the products that they've got coming out. They want to look after you, and they want to present all that stuff in the most aspirational setting, I guess. And if you don't like that product, you've still got to have the minerals or have the integrity to go, lovely trip. Yeah. But I didn't like that about it. And I can see how that line can be blurred sometimes.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the challenge, right? But actually, I want to take a slight step back about the review process, because I definitely think, and I'm only basing this on the certain things that I know about the industry and how the industry that I've seen it working in the way that I have, but I always think that the reviews are quite often, or can often be there to set up. You're basically setting up a brand to fail. And what I mean by that is that quite a lot of the testers, and I flick through them sometimes, and I watch a few things and I read through it, and I try and understand it and keep up to speed. But there's no question for me that everyone might get sent a 10.5-degree driver in this flex, and then they test that. But in reality, I feel like if you're really doing a true test, you have to compare apples with apples. So surely every review, the journalist or the writer should be fitted.
Yeah,
because they not always are they?
Not always. I would say the bulk of the major OEMs that we deal with now, we would all go through a fitting. Like we're here now, I won't mention the name, but we're here for an event at the moment, and we're going through a fitting process there. It's a tricky one with both irons and drivers, because you do a video. So, for example, me, I've played a little bit in the past. I'm still relatively quick in terms of club head speed. So I'll make some YouTube videos on a product and I'll pop in my Ventus Black gamer shaft. I'll make some videos on that.
Was that a shout out?
It was, yeah. Fuji, if you're listening, more product, please. And I'll make a video using that shaft. And a lot of comments will come in going, well, that's great. That's a £300 upcharge shaft. What's the point of that review? And you kind of go, well, I can see your point, but also what's the point in me using a stock stiff that comes through at the wrong loft? That has to be accounted for. And what we do specifically, we work with AllFit, the adapter company. So I can put not just the same brand of shaft, I can put the same shaft on any manufacturer's head to make sure we're isolating. Now, whatever you do, some people will say it's not perfect, because some people will say, well, that's a slightly different head profile, and that you might not have been fitted into that shaft for that head profile, but you've got to give something somewhere. I think our take on that was we wanted to isolate the performance or the component that we're really trying to look at, which is head in that scenario. Yes, what I'm fitted to will be different to what you're fitted to or what Lloyd's fitted to. But so long as we're isolating the section of the club that we want to talk about, that's it. And same with all the irons. I mean, again, I can barely think of a manufacturer that doesn't send me stuff in a Dynamic Gold X100, half an inch longer than standard, and then anything else. Sometimes they're not great on lie angle, but I'll move them to my lie angle. So I'll get everything as close as spec as possible. Yeah, for everything I'm testing on, because I've got a weird spec as well, being lanky, and I need long, upright. So and when Welsh. It comes standard,
Welsh as well, yeah.
Welsh, yeah, definitely not Welsh. Still not Welsh since the start of the podcast, just so you know. So yeah, it's. you know as well as anyone, this sort of social media world, when you're putting some opinion out there, you're going to get shot at. Everyone will say, well, that's wrong. You should have done it like this. Should have used that shaft. But what am I learning from this guy? And we get it with like our best game improvement irons videos. You can see comments. This guy, what does he know about game improvement irons? He's hitting this and hitting that. And again, it's like, well, what do you want to do? You want to reel out some duffer who's topping it 10 foot in front of themselves and going, oh, this isn't improving my game. Well, what are we learning from that? So it is quite nuanced, and you've got to develop a little bit of a thick skin sometimes because you can't please everyone, Daryl.
No,
as you know.
You can't please everyone, no, which does actually lead me to another point. Well,
you love a segue, don't you?
I do like a segue, yeah. But before I reach into that segue, so it's probably not going to be as strong of a segue as it was initially intended. But I always think when you look at the best players in the world and they go from new, say, driver to new driver year after year, or even in the same season for different reasons, 9 times out of 10, they use the same shaft anyway. So like that's one consistent variable, how that shaft is going to move. So really, it's a bit like I hear this, and I've heard this, and as you would have over the past few decades now, everyone says to you, oh, the shaft is the engine of the golf club. For me, biggest load of shite. Never heard of anything so stupid in my life. Because if the shaft was the engine of the golf club, you should be able to use your driver in a greenside bunker, right? Now, what I will say about the shaft is that it is there to help you with timing. It is there to help consistency of strike. So really, it's more like a fine-tuning part of the product itself. The club head does almost all of the work.
100%. I had this chat with Trotty out at the Kingdom at TaylorMade, and we were talking about components of fitting and what's most effective for changing anything. And exactly right. Like the last thing you'll look at generally on a tour fitting is, well, I've been in this shaft for ages. Cool. Do you find the middle of the club face with it? Yeah, brilliant. Right, we'll stick with that.
Yeah.
And then if you need to make a change to launch, spin, one click of a wrench, you're making much larger gains in terms of anything you want to change in terms of ball flight, right? Than we're moving into a slightly higher launching profile shaft, if such a thing does exist, which I'm not entirely sure it does myself either. So yeah, I'm in total agreement. And then, I mean, again, I'm not picking holes in testing processes, but as you all know from tour, even at the very high end, tolerances. In fact, you once told me this is a bit of
I hope I was right.
knowledge from the past that I drop on the podcast all the time, and it came from you. As you said to me once, and Tom Davis backed it up, was if you go for a fitting and you're in that studio and you're pinging that driver and it's doing exactly what you want to do, you take that head or mark that head, no matter if it's got roof marks, if it's scratched, whatever, because the nuances in CG, in actual loft, in face angle, the chances of you ordering that in, and I've been doing this, I've been measuring a lot of driver heads recently, and the variance still in actual loft versus stated loft is quite significant.
It's all tolerance, yeah. It's all tolerance, but it applies to everything in the world. Everything that's ever made is the same. I've got 2 sets of AirPods, the headphones, AirPods.
But the actual one stay in and the others fall out, right?
How did you know? They're both Welsh. They're Welsh headphones. The cases.
Yeah.
So weirdly, one of them, if you can spin it on a table and it spins like like the end of that movie that Leonardo DiCaprio was in. I can't remember what that one's called, but Inception. Yeah. So it basically spins and spins and spins. The other one can't do that. Right. Now, my point is that those are probably come out of a perfect mold, could have been the same mold, but there's a tolerance. So when club heads are made, they're usually made out of a mold or they forged in some description or whatever the case may be.
I think he's gone, Lloyd. He's measuring the CG of his AirPod
I'm
cases.
Gone, yeah. I love all this stuff as well. I don't talk about it a lot on the podcast, and now I'm excited about it because you're here, right? But cooling temperatures make a difference. So my background, but well before TaylorMade, I used to be a toolmaker or apprentice toolmaker with my dad. So I could make a mobile phone cover, for example. I could do that, maybe not as good as I used to be able to do, but I reckon I give myself a pretty good shot at doing that today. Just give me a milling machine and spark erosion machine or whatever it is, and I'll be able to do those things. But there's always a tolerance, always across the board. It's just how tight that tolerance will be. Now, obviously, when you're dealing with the elite golfers in the world, a quarter of a degree of loft change from one driver to another is massive. So, it's no wonder that those players would go onto the truck and then they're measuring each head one at a time to get the closest possible match. And you know, those are tight tolerances. Like they are small differences, but at elite level, you notice it. But I think that even if you're a member of the general public and you go for a fitting, and if you smash that driver and you are crushing that driver, buy that driver. It might be secondhand.
I measured it. I measured 3 heads in my local pro shop. I won't say the manufacturer because I'm not in the business of calling these out yet. But I measured 3 9-degree heads of the same model. So I had to get one off the fitting cart, and they had 2 on the shop floor. And one was at 8.25, one was pretty much bang on 9, and the other one was 3/4 of a degree the other way. So it was 9.75. So imagine you've been for your fitting. And you were using that, I think it was the fitting head that was the highest loft, actually. And you've been fitted into that. You've dialed in all your spin numbers. It's seeing exactly what you want from a flight window. Great, I'll order that up. Here's my 600 quid. That 8.25 head comes in. We're a degree and a half different. We're not quarter. We're not half. We're a degree and a half. Different. Or out of whack here. You're going to see some very, very different things. I think you alluded to it back in the day, even the amount of glue that's used in certain parts, because a lot of these heads are component pieced together, the face, the crown. You know, the amount of epoxy that it takes to hold that in. I mean, obviously that's controlled as best as possible in a factory, but a little bit spills out here, CG shifts a bit. Like it's so wild.
That's fine. You know, it's funny you said that. I was talking to somebody just last week about glass beads.
You have some good chats, don't you?
Yeah.
Must be a hoot on a night out, Daryl. Same as me.
Wild, just wild. But like for people that might not know, when they typically glue in a head or a shaft into a head, and this is when I say relatively new, we're talking probably the past maybe 15 years. It was very, very common out on tour. But basically, if you ground down the tip of the shaft, sometimes you grind off too much, sometimes not enough, and it's either a snug fit or it's not a snug fit. So they use then glass beads inside the glue to basically level out the location of the shaft into the head.
Centralize it, right?
Yeah, just to try, again, going back to your point about using your gamer shaft in your driver head, you're trying to compare apples to apples all the time. So if you glue that in at the wrong angle, well, that could make a big difference to loft. It can even make a big difference to swing location, to swing weight.
I've turned this into kick point.
You have. What are we doing here? It's about media.
But you're absolutely right. I've seen it when people, when you haven't got a snug fit on an adapter, and they've glued the adapter on, and you prior to them gluing it, you could hear it rattling a touch, and then they leave it on the side to dry. So then the shaft's pressed up against the wall, the head's going that way, and it's probably gluing a degree more upright than it probably should be. So yeah, I mean, we could talk for days on this.
It's another episode, is it? Another episode?
Probably another episode. But yeah, from a brand point of view, I'll let me relate that back to what we're talking about. I've been testing at the moment. So like I said, it's driver launch season coming up. We're filming this. What now? We're December yet? No, we're late November, aren't we? But I've got a load of product, and there was one manufacturer I was testing with the other day. Two brand new models of driver. The lower spinning, more Tory head was coming out fine, good ball speed numbers. And then the second head that isn't the Tory, it's more sort of the core model of their offering this year. I was same loft, measured loft, everything the same. I was between 3 and 4 miles an hour slower on ball speed repeatedly. Same swing speeds, the same aerodynamics. I'm putting the same input in, and there's still those tolerances on COR as well, isn't there? Like that stuff's measured on tour as well. So speed off the face, trampoline effect, whatever you want to call that. So to the point where I've said, look, could you send me another one? Because I'm going to write this review and compare it very unfavorably to some of its competition based on what could be a poor head here. So I've got one in transit to find out whether it is just not a great head or whether it's, and I think, if we're talking about relationship with brands, I think if you've got that relationship as a tester where you can go back and they know you're not a moron, and they'll go, well, he's probably got the wrong setting on the launch monitor, or he's used another ball or whatever. If they understand that you've probably done it properly, they're willing to help you out with stuff. And then I'm not desperately trying to make it a great review. Don't care. It's unbiased.
Just making it a fair review.
I want it to be fair, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, that leads me to think about how brands should operate with the media. So to kind of like intro that, it would be quite good for, and I get asked this question sometimes. I imagine you must get asked this question all the time, but how does the golf media actually make their money? Because I think a lot of people assume, I'm thinking about entities like Financial Times or whatever, and there's a subscription model to that. But that's not normally the case for a lot of media, in particular golf media. So how would the golf media typically make their money? And with that being caveated with how should brands themselves work with the media to make sure that the general public are well informed, educated, and get the best possible experience and knowledge from that brand? It's a great question.
It's a wonderful question. I'm going to
Thank you.
disappoint you because I don't have the answer to
Brilliant.
part two.
Excellent. So my question was good. The answer was pony. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, basically, that's where we're at. Yeah,
Right.
I can tell you how we do work.
Yeah.
But I've never really given it enough thought to say how I think the brands could do better or where they could change. But I mean, let's get into that for a start. That's massively changed over the past few years, isn't it? Like back when you were on the tour vans, I think the tour presence was critical, wasn't it? Like people looked to the tour players to see what they were using. And that's what I'm going to play, and specifically in terms of golf clubs, because so-and-so's using that. That's the most used driver on tour. I remember you canvassing out on the ranges at Wales Open, like on the Wednesdays, and trying to get some last product into the bag for the week, because it was all about the count, right?
Yeah.
That's shifted with social media, hasn't it? So you're seeing influencers and your YouTubers being paid more than the majority of tour staff, because there's more eyeballs on their product.
Always grows, always consistent.
Exactly right.
Not reliant on performance.
Completely, yeah. Exactly, yeah. You're not even seeing, you get your Grant Horvats, your good players, but Callaway going into the bags of your Four Brothers, Bob Does Sports, that kind of stuff. It's not necessarily all about this has to be optimal. It's visibility, it's eyes on your product, isn't it? So people have shifted in terms of that way of getting product out there. And I think that's a really, really good thing personally. But going back to the first part of your question, advertising is big. Again, I can only speak for Golf Monthly. So advertising is a huge part of what we do. So we've still got the magazine, which we still sell a lot of copies at Newstown, which is doing really well. Actually seeing a little spike at the moment, which is great. And there's obviously advertising that's sold within that, partnerships and commercial projects within that. Similarly, on the website, we've got there's advertising that will sit on certain pages. You've got to be careful because you don't want to interrupt the user experience too much, because all of a sudden, if it's just littered with pop-ups and ads, we try and strike the right balance with that, but that can be tough at times because you've got to make money right. There's, as I said to you at the early part of the podcast, there's editorial content and there's sponsored and paid for content where people can have platinum advertorials and whatever else, where they get articles where we're getting the message across directly as they want it to be put across because we've got a large audience. And we're branching out into stuff like, this isn't a plug, but obviously I do another podcast with my friend Dan Parker. We do Kickpoint, the Golf Gear Show. So one of our plays there was social. So we set up a nice studio, as you've got here, where we can film and get some nice high production value clips onto social media. And we've done, going just over a year, and we've done, I can't remember the numbers, tens of millions now in terms of social views. So we can then take that out to brands and say, look, we've got to stay brand agnostic here, and we've got to stay independent, because that's where our credibility lies. But there are opportunities for product placement, whether it's apparel, whether it's some tech, whether it's sponsoring an episode for an ad read. Like, we're happy to do things ad like reads and things like that. It doesn't mean that that's going to influence just because you've done that ad read. We're still going to independently review your product, because that's where we live and die in terms of us, in terms of credibility. It's a fine balance. And again, this has been my only media job, so I only know how Golf Monthly does it. And I personally think we tread a really good line between making sure our stuff's credible and believable, but also being able to monetize that from a business point of view, because that's what we do at the end of the day, isn't it?
And the podcast and everything that you guys have been doing around that show has definitely been a success. Like, I go to different places, people talk about it. There's no question what you guys have been able to build thus far has been excellent. I know that myself, I've come to you and asked you questions about how you've done this, that, and the next thing. So we're taking
never had an
learnings
answer
from
for you, have I?
Well, yeah, so far you've been absolutely pony. We've established the poniness level of this conversation.
Correct. Yeah.
But, from an insight perspective, it's really interesting to see how brands are maybe adapting slightly to this new social world. And obviously, I feel like it gets mentioned in every episode, the PJ Tour Live debate, and how that's fractured the game a little bit in terms of
just
how
before you go on to that, we're having to adapt as well. So like the play for us with the podcast was just get it out there, get the apps. We're talking, it's a golf equipment. We're going to make it relatively techie. Like I don't have your level and Trotty's level of knowledge, but I'm into it. Dan is more. He's a club golfer. He's not. We've kind of forced him into the equipment space, but he's ended up loving it and likes learning it. So it ends up being me explaining to Dan in an accessible way, which seems to help other people. But yeah, brands that come to us and sponsored the pod or sponsored episodes or brand placement, whatever, have kind of sculpted our strategy moving forward. They want to see a bit more long form stuff. So we've done a couple of videos where I've gone and played in a live pro-am with Bubba Watson. We've done even like a what's in my bag, like who cares? But like that's done good numbers on YouTube, and there's some brand placement.
Ventus Black, right, in your bag.
You've got it, yeah, very good. You're paying attention,
X100s in the irons.
Very good, yeah, very good. And like we're off to Pinehurst on Sunday. We're going to spend a week out there. We're going to make some content around all of that. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. Like we'd be foolish not to listen to the brands about what success they're seeing, whether it's with other people or what they want to see, how they want their products represented. And if we can have some good case studies on our YouTube channel, on whatever we do, to show, well, we can do that, by the way, we're a safe pair of hands here. Like we're going to do a series whereby I played Avoda were great. So I got Bryson's, don't know if you ever saw it, I'll send you the link because it's great. I got Bryson's spare set. Everyone counts that. I got Bryson's spare set of actual irons. So the curved face, the cricket bat grips, unbelievably stiff. And then I pieced together the rest of his bag, like a 5-degree crank driver, arm lock putter. And then I went and played a PGA event. I played one of our regional PGA events. I mean, spoiler alert, I won, but I don't like to bring that up. So that's a case study for us, because we're now going to take that to brands and say, look, whether it's TaylorMade, whether it's Titleist, how about a series of I played a pro event with Rory's clubs, for example, exact specs, exact setup. Let's go to the tour department, let's build them, and then let's see how much spec plays a part in. So there's all these little opportunities, and we're always thinking what the brand might want to see, because we might want to sell that in, but we're also obviously listening to the brand in terms of how they guide that as well. So it's a very close relationship, I guess. I
think so. And just thinking about the top of the episode where we're talking about the marketing mix and how all these different channels, it's very much an overlapping experience for the end user, ultimately the customer. So I often feel, and I see this with brands now, where they go so deep into, say, influencer marketing, but sometimes they don't even want to pay for it. They just want to give a product out, and they don't realize, well, hang on, if you were to do the same thing with actual media, you're going to have to pay quite a lot for that. So, but equally, that social side is quite important, but so is the media side. So how you've been able to segue with Golf Monthly and then going into the podcast show as well, it's interesting to see how brands are reaching and touching the fan base in many different environments.
It's interesting to see how differently they do it between themselves as well, because I think, as you were talking about, the giving that product away, getting it in people's hands, Lab just popped into my head. Like, I think the last 2 years, every influencer, it's become a bit of an in-joke in the industry. Every influencer who's on Instagram is rolling in putts out of a bush with a Lab putter. Oh, look, I've just unboxed my new Lab putter, but brilliant. Like, everyone's seeing it, everyone's talking about it, and like, look what happened with the private equity sale.
They've done well, haven't they?
What a fantastic way they've gone about that. And it's not. I was a big proponent of that particular technology, and always saw the snake oil comments and fad this, fad that. It's definitely not that.
No.
And I think it's so interesting to see the different ways these different brands go about things. And maybe I'm saying too much here, but we went out on a little podcast trip to California last year, and we visited a few of the brands that are all based around Carlsbad, right? The equipment brands. And I'm not going to tell you which ones we labeled them, but they've all got their own individual personalities. It was like I said to Dan, it's like visiting the in-betweeners. This brand is like Neil, a bit out there. This one's very sensible, like Will. They all got their own, and you see that in their marketing strategies, the type of people they're trying to push their product to. And that's really surprised me over the last couple of years, how personality can shine through a brand in, like, whether that's the people that you meet at the venue, whether that's their branding, whether that's the way they choose to advertise. Brands have their full own personalities, don't they? It's really interesting.
It is interesting. And I think to start to wrap things up a little bit here as well.
You bored of me?
A little bit, yeah. I think is it written all over my face or something?
Oh, it's just a hint I was getting, yeah.
I suppose looking at how everything is changing, and obviously the hot topic at the moment, AI and blah, blah, blah. Where do you see the media's role in the golf world, say within the next like 5 years? What do you think's likely? If there was one thing that you think was going to change, what would that be in that period of time, roughly?
I think some brands will drop off because I think we have this chat all the time about AI at work, and we're seeing competitors, I don't know, other people in the space reading some stuff. We're reading some of the reviews, some of the products, and going, that's not first person, that's not credible.
Really?
You're starting to pick up that someone's used AI to create this stuff, and there's very time efficient uses of AI, but when your credibility of what you're doing relies on people believing you, it has to be done first person. We're so keen to put pictures of ourselves testing the product in our reviews, to show videos of us hitting it, to use first person language all of the time to make sure you can, and things like just your reviewer bio in the article, so people know, okay, he plays off this, he's done this. You can attach a person to that review. So I think, yeah, I mean, who knows? But the way I'm looking at it is, I've seen some starting to eke away a little bit of their credibility, in my opinion, by an over reliance on that. So it scared me to start with, because you start thinking, well, this stuff can do exactly what I do, but AI can't hit golf balls. AI can't pass on and sort of articulate how you think the performance and the sound and feel of that might resonate with a particular audience, and the feeling this gives you, and so on and so forth. So
I definitely think that AI is, this would be my view, I suppose. AI is a service, and as a service, it has to be a servant, and it's a servant to mankind. So it has to benefit humans. So AI, everyone thinks that AI is going to take my job. Well, I don't believe that, really. I mean, there's going to be new jobs created, and I'll give you a little small snippet. In 1910, do you have any idea what the number one profession was in the UK?
Prostitute.
You were obviously there at the time.
I don't know. Go on, enlighten me.
Whaling. Yep, whaling for the oils, and from a candle wax perspective, all of these different things. Whaling was the number one thing. What ended the whaling industry, right, was Henry Ford, by creating motor cars that you could travel all over the world on. Perfect. And the coincidental ability of humans to be able to dig underground and actually get the oil out in order to fuel the cars. So that changed everything. So today, right now, whatever we might be doing is whaling, and AI is going to come in, it's going to put whaling out of business, but it's going to be a whole new industry. So ultimately, AI will only benefit humans, and humans will find ways to create employment opportunities via AI, is my prediction. Right?
I think you're 100% right. And I think my limited experience of what I've been scratching the surface of AI just to streamline some of the stuff we do. And it's still, like, as you say, reliant on the servant. Like, it's very reliant on the prompts you give AI to produce what you want it to produce. And unless I've missed a trick, I don't feel that's going to change. You've still got to be very clear, and your prompts have to be very clear and concise about what you want to do. Yeah,
and it's only going to benefit a human. Like, AI is not going to type into ChatGPT a prompt. It's just not going to do that because it doesn't serve a need. But to us, it does. I'm trying to find a cooking recipe. Maybe ChatGPT is the option, for example, but it's serving a human need. And that's where I think it'll go. So how I think, and the reason why I bring that up a little bit is I wonder how humans will consume their content and consume their information will change based on what they're able to put into AI. So, for example, would there be a world potentially where you're doing your podcast show, you're talking about golf equipment, but in the prompt, whatever this system might look like, it says, I want to know Joe's views on this, 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 and this. And it gives you the minutes of the videos, where those videos are. It gives you the transcripts, and it's all customized specifically to your need. I can see that happening, but I still think it needs to have a real person to be able to narrate the credibility. But I think the AI search element of that will become real good. And I think that will benefit mankind. But you still need the honest, legitimate reviews. You still need the humans behind it to storytell in the right way that will actually resonate with another human.
Yeah.
That was actually
in the
bloody
example,
good the way I described that, by the way.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
Thank
in
you
the
very
example
much.
you've used, your example doesn't exist unless we've spoken about something first, right, on the podcast. So you've still got to have that basis. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's some people are terrified, aren't they? I think, like you say, in many ways, we've probably been here before, whether it's whaling, whether it's the internet, whatever it's been, it changes everything. But as you said, things develop, new opportunities arise, and yeah, it's exciting for business. It's exciting for the golf industry. I heard someone talking about AI fitting the other day. I mean, we've got things like Mizuno's shaft DNA thing, and with sensors on the shaft and just spitting out a starting point. But once again, if you want to go down the humanizing route of that, you can spit out 3 shafts. I'm going to prefer the feel of one of them. So I still need someone to guide me through that and talk through stuff like that. So yeah, fascinating stuff.
Fascinating stuff. And finally, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Super helpful to have you here. Glad you've been able to check out our space here as well.
Very cool.
So yeah, thank you for coming along. And just to close out, for the guys listening to the show now, where can they find you? Where can they see you? Give them a rundown.
Bad at all this stuff, but everywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all those type of things, and we're on YouTube. We put our full episodes on YouTube, the Kickpoint, the Golf Gear Show podcast. We do a Monday show, little tour reaction thing, and a Friday, big, long, rambly waffle show. Which is great.
That's what you should call it, the waffle show.
The waffle show, yeah. We could get waffles and everything.
That's right. Think about that.
Good, Daryl.
There might be a tax on there today.
You're never off, are you?
I'm never off. Always switched on, see? It's the Welsh in me.
Right, I'm off.
That's it. Let's go. Thank you very much.